Okay, we are live. Just got to invite a bunch of people, and then we will start the tutorial on coconut shrimp. I really wish Facebook would allow me to create a filtered group and then just invite that whole group of people who give a shit about my cooking, because that would be so much easier. But again, what are you gonna do? Hey, what do you want? It's free. So, alright, that ought to do it for now. Feel free to share, by the way. It's set to public, so anybody who wants to see this can see it. Also, good news, you'll notice I have more space on my sides. Facebook finally figured out how to use a fucking landscape aspect ratio for these live videos. So this will probably look a lot better on YouTube than the past ones have. Alright, let's get started though, shall we? So, for coconut shrimp, in a word, this is going to be a deep fry recipe, and I will explain. Well, you're going to need 3 bowls. You're going to need your handy measuring cup. You're going to need sweetened coconut. In Stop and Shop calls it Tender Flake Coconut Sweetened. This is your generic baking coconut. So you find this in the baking aisle near where they've got like the powdered sugar and everything. You're going to need 2 cups roughly of this. So I grabbed 2 packages just to be on the safe side. The exact amounts on the coconut, the flour, and the breadcrumbs are going to be 2 cups, 2 cups, and 2 cups. That's those are rough estimates, and you'll see why once we get going. You're going to need some eggs. You're going to need some breadcrumbs. I prefer the panko, but for this recipe, either normal breadcrumbs or panko breadcrumbs will work. You're also going to need about 1 pound of shrimp. I'm going to go over, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to start getting our oil ready. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over some rules when working with fresh raw shrimp. Okay. Get out of here, breadcrumbs. You're in the way. Okay. So, now, I displayed all this stuff out so I could just point to it. I'm going to actually move some stuff out of the way and prepare my working space. Oh, sorry. One last thing, because I'm terrible. You will also want to set out a tray of some kind, or a large plate, with some parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, aluminum foil will work just fine. The reason it's parchment paper is because things don't stick to parchment paper as much. Okay. Let's get started. Okay. So, first thing we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to take out one of my cutting boards, and we're going to demonstrate how to peel and devein shrimp. Now, most grocery stores, if they still have a seafood department, when you buy the raw shrimp, they might have something which is called simple peel shrimp. If they do, and that's what the Stop and Shop by me has. What they've done for that is they've already deveined the shrimp, and they've put a big slice in the outer shell. So that all you have to do is just physically just peel the shrimp. Everything just comes right off. But I'm going to take a couple of these out, and I'm going to show you in close-up on the camera on what you would have done if you were doing this with like real fresh shrimp. Like if you had gone to an ethnic market, or if you had gone to a higher place and gotten fresh shrimp. or even a really cheap variety of frozen shrimp that are not deveined. This is a very important thing. Because if you're working with fresh shrimp, you need to make sure they've been deveined. I'm also going to go through all of these, because even though they're advertised as being deveined, I'm going to check them, because you do not trust this stuff to chance. Let's get a knife and let's show you what's going on there. So for this, I'm going to work with a smaller knife, like a parrying knife. Okay, so this one's a kind of a, this is a shrimp, yes. This is kind of a prime example of what I'm talking about. So we're going to get in real close here. See how this is split open, okay? If this had been just a fresh shrimp, fresh raw uncooked shrimp, this would be closed up and you would see a dark line that extends from here all the way down through here. Now, for those of you who are the faint of heart, you may want to plug your ears for a second. Okay, that is the shrimp's intestinal tract. Deveining a shrimp is you take a knife or a slot or you can even use a butter knife or even a spoon. What you do is you slice through here and you scrape out all that stuff in that back end of the shrimp. That's it. That's all you got to do. You just make sure you get it all. You want to go all the way from the top stem all the way down. Now, like I said, these have already done that. Now, the reason they're called peel shrimp is this outer layer here, right? That's actually the innermost layer of the shrimp shell. You don't want to eat that. It's terrible. So all you're going to do is physically, and they might even have some little legs left. That's fine. You're just going to literally pinch and pull that off. See? There you go. Now, if you want, you can even pull this off, and if you're better at it than I am, you can leave the because that's actually shrimp meat in there, and that's actually still good. You can actually pull that off. However, some people, for presentation purposes, on a fried shrimp dish like this, will leave the shell on the little bit of the end tail as something to physically grab, because this is generally an appetizer, finger food type thing. I'm going to try to pull them off because I like shrimp, and I'm going to try to get as much shrimp as possible for my money. So, let's start pulling all these things apart. Now, while we're doing this, let's get our oil started, so that way we're not waiting for it on the back end of this whole project. Alright, now, I mentioned before that this is deep frying, and I know what a bunch of you are going to say. A bunch of you are going to say to me, but Bill, I'm on XYZ diet. You're going to say, but Bill, deep frying things is bad for you. Well, here's the deal. Here's the reality, okay? Eating a shit ton of oil is not great for you, no. However, frying is in and of itself a cooking medium. It is a way to transfer heat into the food. You are not actually consuming the vast majority of the oil that is used in frying. Also, nowadays, because we don't really do deep frying these days in restaurants or at home with animal fat, we use vegetable oils, which are way more healthy. Check this out. Okay? I know it's backwards, but you see all those zeros? That's cholesterol, trans fats, sugars. They're all zero. The only thing that vegetable oil really has in it is a little bit of saturated fat. Yeah, saturated fat's not great for you. But again, this isn't actually all going into what you're eating. It's really just surrounding the outside of it and transferring heat. Once we pull it out, the vast majority of the oil drips off. What little bit is left isn't really an appreciable amount. So don't be afraid to try doing fried recipes, even if you're on a diet. Yeah, most fried foods are not great for you, but it's not the oil that makes them bad for you. It's the fact that most fried foods are, the food itself is chock full of things that are bad for you. You know, like Oreos. Because I've never deep fried an Oreo before in cake batter. Right, moving on. What we're going to do is we're going to set this up with about 1.5 inches to 2 inches worth of oil in a medium Dutch oven or medium pot. And I'm going to move the camera so everyone can see. And we're going to put that on medium-low heat to just start getting the oil up to temperature while we work on everything else. If you don't have an oil thermometer, like me, I actually don't have one, believe it or not. If you don't have an oil thermometer, what you're aiming for is a good medium-low burner temp, and for the oil to gain a bit of a shimmer, but not to smoke. If your oil starts smoking, it is too high. Remove the oil from the heat. Let it come down a bit. I am using canola oil because it is slightly less in that saturated fat than just run-of-the-mill vegetable oil. What is the difference between canola oil and vegetable oil? Well, most mass-marketed vegetable oils are soybean oil, or a mix of soybean oil and another things. The other canola oil is just the specifically canola plant. Slightly a little bit more heart healthy by a small margin. The other thing is canola oil is a bit more forgiving in terms of that smoke point on the oil. If you've seen my other videos, I talk about why you don't fry with olive oil. It's because the oil will break down. It basically, it starts to smoke, which is the first stage of it catching on fire. It breaks down under too low of a heat to be useful for frying. Canola oil is great because canola oil is very forgiving. You basically have to really jack that heat up on high for way too long to do any damage to canola oil. So let's get this poured and let's get this started. Okay, 1 second. Reverse, damn you. Alright, there we go. Oh yeah, deep Snickers bars and shit at state fairs, that's like a staple of state fair food. You want to die of a heart attack? Eat at a state fair. That's how that works. So we've got our oil. Okay. And so we're just going to just pour right on in here until we've got enough of a depth that we're fairly certain that the shrimp, if we were to put it in like in the batches, right, that the shrimp would be fully submerged. That's all you're looking for depth. You don't got to fill the thing like halfway or any nonsense like that. All you're looking to do is have enough oil in there to be fairly certain that the shrimp are going to be submerged once they're in there. Okay. I'm going to go on medium-low. Okay? For now. I'm probably going to turn this up to medium when we start cooking. But I'm going to keep it on medium-low for now, just because we're just getting this oil started while we work on some other things. Pardon me a second while I just plug my phone back in. These live videos eat the battery on my phone super bad. I'm going to be picking up a GoPro relatively soon, and I'm hoping that these videos will be a lot easier for me to do once I have something that's like mounted to my head or something. I can just look at stuff and like hold things up to my head and be like, look, it's this. Alright, so while I am working on these shrimp, I'm going to make sure they're all deveined. I'm going to peel the rest of the shells off. Feel free to comment with questions or comments and things like that, and I'll be perfectly happy to answer questions and interact as we go. Why sweetened coconut? Okay, good question. So coconut shrimp as an appetizer or as a dish is meant to be. I'm getting to that. It's meant to complement the natural flavor of shrimp, and it plays off of fish very well. And then the other half is Little Doots is right. Unsweetened coconut, like raw coconut straight from a coconut, tends to be pretty bitter until you cook it in something, until you blanch it or bake it into something, or in other words, until it's applied to a significant application of heat, it can be very bitter. Sweetened coconut in this application is going to play off of the flavor of the shrimp far better than any sort of unsweetened coconut. Now, if you happen to love the flavor of unsweetened coconut, by all means, try the recipe with unsweetened coconut, because it'll work. It's just going to taste different. Coconut shrimp happens to be my personal favorite appetizer. So, good question, though. Make sure you check both sides of the shrimp after you cut the back and devein it. Make sure you got all of that shell off. Don't let it trick you if any of it's thin. You really want to make sure you get all that shell off, because nothing is going to ruin your experience with this more than biting into one of these and discovering that there's still shell on it. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is why you double check even the ones that say they're cleaned. That's why you double check, folks. Kate is not wrong. However, we're going to be doing a dredge batter on this, so that isn't going to be an issue for us. Does the size of the shrimp change the taste of the shrimp? Not really. However, you do want to make sure that you are getting the right variety of shrimp. So these are like your standard run-of-the-mill shrimp that you would expect to find when you order shrimp. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this easily. So there are other varieties of shrimp in the world, and you can find like some giant shrimp varieties, and they may taste a little different, like rock shrimp and whatnot. But the thing is, if you're in like a normal run-of-the-mill grocery store, you're not running into that, because those are specialty items and they're crazy expensive. You're not finding that at Stop and Shop. Size can change the texture. Mish is right. The bigger ones tend to be a bit more chewy. They can be tougher. You're really looking for cocktail-sized shrimp. These are 16-20s. So shrimp are measured on a scale, on a sliding scale of sizes that uses numbers, and it's not really tied to like a real world thing, so I can't like say like, oh, it's like 20 centimeters or something, because it's not. Cocktail shrimp are generally in the what's called 16-20 range. That's what these are. The next size up from these is 20 to 32s. They'll work great for this as well. And if you're going for like a big present, if you're going for fancy presentation, like shrimp on the edge of a martini glass, those bigger ones are a little easier to work with for that. I wouldn't go any bigger than that though, because they do start to get kind of chewy. They also get crazy expensive. It's supposed to be how many are in a pound, but let me tell you how wrong that fucking number is every goddamn time. Yeah, that's what they say it is, but in my experience is that is bullshit. In my... Oh yeah, I had that backwards. I'm sorry. The 3140s are the ones. They're smaller, so there's more of them in a pound. So this is the larger ones. Because I am dyslexic and I do that all the time. I pulled that one off from the strainer. Yeah, they just don't. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure if we looked at my car and actually tied, 150 horses to it, it wouldn't really be the same thing. It's just that throughout human history, we have a tendency of naming things based off of things that we can tangibly, wrap our minds around in the era in which they're discovered. When they figured out the calculation for horsepower, the most common work thing that they could think to compare it to was horses. The only thing is, the scale of work over time of the measurement of power doesn't actually scale with the number of horses you strap to something. Almost there, folks. Now, so the thing you want to check about those frozen shrimp you have in the freezer, are they frozen raw shrimp? See, again, why we check. Yeah, see, that one was not well cleaned at all. Ah, see, this is why we fucking look, and we assume nothing. Assume absolutely nothing. Okay. The thing you want to double check, Mag, about the shrimp that you got in the freezer is make sure that they're raw shrimp and not cocktail shrimp. Because cocktail shrimp are already cooked. So, one thing about cocktail shrimp, which are already cooked, you could actually do this. You could actually do this with cocktail shrimp. It's just that the cooking time becomes way shorter. And you do run the risk of things getting a little, overdone if you're not paying close attention if you're using cooked shrimp. Almost there, folks. Yeah, it's the Assassin's Creed policy of cleaning shrimp. For those of you, yeah, it can get chewy. Here's the thing though, Melissa, I've taken leftover cocktail shrimp and I've used it in a bunch of recipes that call for raw shrimp and I've pulled it off. Like, it's totally doable. It just requires you to be really careful about the cooking. Also, hi Anastasia. Welcome to my sorta weekly cooking show now that I'm not dying from super flu. Okay, almost there, folks. Aw, sorry, Amy. I got a text from a good friend who's apparently broadcast for her keeps getting interrupted for some reason. I don't know if it's her internet or what, but she says no coconut shrimp for me, and I'm like, aw, but the whole point was coconut shrimp. Yeah, like that's totally doable. You know, Anastasia, you're not wrong. I'm gonna put a pin in that. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, just to make sure we get all the last of the little shell bits off, is we're just going to take all of our nice peeled shrimp. I'm going to put them back in the strainer that's in the sink, and I'm just going to run some cold water over them. Good. Kind of swirl them around and just let them drain. They can sit for a little while. That's fine. Now we're going to prep our batter. Okay. I'm going to find a better spot for my phone. Come on, phone. Do. Stay. Good. All right. That is such an accident waiting to happen. Okay. Cutting board can go in the sink for now, as can that knife, because we don't need it anymore. Okay. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Okay. And we're going to put that in one of the larger bowls. Now the flour is going to get mixed with 2 cups of breadcrumbs. Okay, we're going to put those together. I'm also going to throw salt. Probably about 2 teaspoons. And black pepper, same. It's kind of to taste. Maybe call it a teaspoon. We're going to take my whisk. Alright, and we're going to stir this together until it's evenly stirred. Next, we're going to take our coconut. This recipe I called that I'm using calls for mixing the two together. Theoretically, you could do the breadcrumbs with the coconut on the outer level as well. It becomes a matter of preference and texture. I'm doing it this way because I think this is going to be a little easier on me in the long run if I just have to do the coconut on the outside. So the coconut is going to go in this bowl. Now, like, remember how I said it was 2 cups and it was like roughly? The thing is, the coconut's just going to be the outer layer. It's just going to be what we're coating it in. So the exact amount of coconut doesn't actually matter. You just have to have enough coconut in order to coat all of the shrimp you're working with. So I'm going to start with 1 bag, and if I need the other bag, I'll open it. So that's just getting dumped directly in. I'm just going to stir it up a little bit, make sure that the coconut's loose. So I'm just going to break it all up with my hand. Good. Sweetened coconut. Alright. Next. Alright. Another bowl. Where did I put them? Where the hell? Ah, they're there. We're going to crack a couple of eggs. Anybody who was here for my chicken Kiev recipe, can you drown something that's dead? If you were here for my chicken Kiev recipe, then you're already kind of familiar with this process. Because this is the same breading process we did for the chicken Kiev. The only difference is we're adding a step. Alright, so I'm going to go with, I think 3 eggs ought to do it for now. The recipe says 4, but again, this is just an egg wash, so the exact amount of egg is irrelevant. The question is, do you have enough to coat everything? I'm going to start with 3. If I need another one, I'll rinse my hands and I'll crack it in. You can take that whisk again, okay? And you are just going to break the yolks and whisk the egg. Just until it's well mixed. Little stirring motion. Let the whisk, as you're stirring, parts of the whisk should be coming in and out of the liquid, because that's what lets a whisk work. Good. So you should have egg that looks like this. It's just whisked egg. If you don't own a whisk, a fork will work just as well. However, go to the dollar store, buy a whisk. Just saying. Okay. Remember that parchment paper I put out on a pan? This is going to be our staging area. This is going to be where things go once they're assembled. Our assembly is going to go as follows. Alright, we're going to start with shrimp. It's going to go in flour and breadcrumbs. Then it's going to go into egg. Then it's going to go into coconut. And then it's going to go onto here. Okay? Now let's find an angle where you guys can vaguely see what I'm doing. I really need to get that GoPro. Okay. Here we go. You can probably do these a couple at a time, but I'm going to do it just one first to show you. Yeah, forks are super, super useful for this. Alright, so one, just to demonstrate, okay? Alright. dredged. It goes in the egg. You let the excess drip off. It goes in the coconut. The coconut sticks to the egg. It should look something like this. It goes on the parchment. Now we're going to do the rest of them. So you can toss them all. If the bowl's big enough, just toss them all and just stir them around in there until they all get coated. You are going to get messy. Sometimes cooking gets messy. Okay. Now you just pull them out one at a time, dip in the egg, roll in coconut. You fabricate limbs. I bet there are spare pieces. Yeah. Because that wouldn't be creepy. Do I dry the shrimp off before I flour stuff? Not really. There's no real need to pat them dry. They've been sitting in the strainer this whole time. That's enough. Yes, Meg is absolutely right. If you put it in a container with a lid instead of a bowl, you can just shake the shit out of it and get the exact same effect. I'm working with a bowl because I'm supposed to be teaching you guys classical cooking techniques on this show. Well, fine. Why don't you go watch Meg's cooking show then? Nah, I'm kidding. She's absolutely right. Ziploc bags, gallon-sized freezer bags are your best friggin' friend. No, she's absolutely right. That is an absolutely fire and forget way to do this. You also get your hands a little less fucked up in the process. Coating chicken isn't gross. It's cooking. Don't scare people away. Don't give them an excuse not to cook at home. Yeah, says the teacher. Right, which of the two of us, which one of us is actually paid to instruct other human beings on how to do things? I know, right? I'm just going to get some of this caked on stuff off of my fingers. And that's going to happen. Let me explain it to someone. Meg, you would be surprised, okay? I'm not like a trained teacher or anything, but I know what I'm doing. You know what you're doing in a kitchen. So you'd be able to explain it. So I'm just fluffing, because the egg gets into the coconut when you're doing a lot of these. The reason what I'm doing with this fork right now is I'm just kind of separating the coconut about, so because it's starting to get clumpy, I'm really just separating it out again. So I don't have to add more coconut quite yet. Oh no, my cooking PG rated my ass. Yeah, no, I swear a lot on this show. Sorry, Maria. Oops. Let me guess, your son is with you. My bad. Almost there, folks. Then we get to the fun part. Just run my hand over the oil. Just gonna see where we're at. I'm gonna need to turn that up to medium soon. God, how many of these shrimp did I get? I got more of these than I thought I did. Alright. Almost there. Yeah, I'm going to need that extra coconut, I think, based on the number of these that are left and how cakey this is getting. Yep. Alright, let's add some more coconut to that. Almost there. Again, you just take them from the flour, dip it in the egg, get the excess off. Make sure there's egg on all of it, though. Toss with the coconut. Onto your baking sheet. Are shrimp and prawn the same thing? That is a very good question. I believe so. And if memory serves correctly, prawn are a more specific type of shrimp. They're not the same as like the cocktail shrimp that we're working with here, but they're basically the same thing. Yeah, I think prawns though are the larger variety in terms of cooking. I'm pretty sure they're both shrimp though. Yeah, they're just bigger. Like, to answer the question scientifically, I believe they are shrimp. They are not, however, prawn are not the cocktail shrimp size that we're working here. Crawdad. Okay, crawdads are actually not shrimp either. Crawdads are closer to lobster, like tiny little lobsters, and they're awesome. Because you do a giant crawdad bake, and it's spicy and delicious and great, and messy as all hell, and you literally suck the meat out of their dead heads. It's awesome. It's also super southern, specifically New Orleans Creole style cuisine. Yeah, I know that they're actually arthropods and they're not the same, but they look like tiny little lobsters. What about crawmom? I'm actually not familiar with that. What are crawmoms? Someone want to Google that for me? I'm actually not familiar with those. Sorry, my cooking takes a lot of influence from down south, but I am so fucking northeastern, it's not even funny. Alright, I think. Hold on. I'm gonna sift through this with my hands. Did I get them all? Alright, I think I got them. Alright, so let's wipe off my hands and show you guys what this looks like before they go in the fryer. Oh, well shit. I don't know. I thought she was asking a legitimate question. And I'm not afraid to admit when I don't know something, so... Oh, I get it. Crawmoms instead of crawd. Ah, ha, ha, ha. That's... Yeah, you got jokes, you. That's good. Okay, increasing the temperature on the oil to medium now, because when the shrimp hit the oil, they're going to drop the temperature of the oil, so it's going to need a little, it's going to need more heat, more energy to maintain temp when these go in. Alright, I'll be right back. I just have to blow my nose because while I no longer have super flu, my sinuses hate me and it's winter. So 1 second. Alright, so let's show you what these look like. So there's all of our delicious little coconut shrimps all ready to go on their parchment paper, awaiting their scalding hot oil bath. Okay? So I don't know if the camera resolution is good enough. You see how the oil is starting to get a shimmer? See how it's starting to move at the bottom? That's a good sign that your oil is at a good temperature if you don't have an oil thermometer. Like me, I do not have an oil thermometer. I should, but I don't. Okay. Yeah, that's not hot. Okay, that's fine. Alright. So, now, I don't have a wire basket. If you don't have a wire basket, that's fine. Tongs will do the trick. Just have them on standby. Now, let's go over a couple of important safety features, okay?